on air, online, and on the go. This is 7 and 4 News at 5. Get connected.
Good evening, I'm Mark Gillette.
And I'm Meghan Morelli. Coming up in the first half hour on 7 and 4 News at 5, one man is dead following a house fire in Clare County this weekend. Hear what investigators say may have caused the blaze.
Plus, the apparent suicide of an Ohio State football player sparked a conversation on head injuries. See how one Traverse City High School is preparing to keep its athletes safe.
And now that Thanksgiving is over, it's starting to feel more like Christmas. See how two northern Michigan communities are gearing up for the season. Those stories are coming up, but as always, your complete forecast first at 5 with 7 and 4 Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Mark Watkins. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Meghan. We're going to talk a little bit about
Students, friends, and teammates came together on the Ohio State University campus last night for a prayer vigil to remember Costa Karageorge. Hundreds gathered to pay their respects and remember the football player and wrestler. Police say Karageorge died of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. He'd been missing since Wednesday, which is the day his mother says she got a text from her son talking about the concussions he'd suffered. Matt O'Hara was on the wrestling team with Costa and says he hopes the family can now have closure after days of searching.
Hard situation, but we just hope it comes out as best as it possibly can. And we want to pray for Costa most of all. Just, he's in a better place, and we know God will be taking care of him.
Other friends of Karageorge say he lived life large and was full of passion. The Ohio State Athletic Department sent out a statement saying they were shocked and saddened to learn of Costa's death. A new study shows brain changes could come for football players who've never even had a concussion. The frequency and severity of head impacts sustained by football players were measured by scientists. After only one season, some athletes had changes in the white matter of the brain, consistent with a mild brain injury. None of these players ever had an actual concussion. The sad news of Karageorge's death has sparked concern about concussion management for athletes even at a high school level. Traverse City West says they've always had a strict protocol in place when it comes to the treatment of athletes suspected of having a concussion. Their protocol follows the Michigan High School Athletic Association's guidelines, which also requires that all coaches become educated on concussions. If a student is diagnosed with one, he or she is not allowed to participate in physical activity at the school until they have a doctor's consent. After that, the student is gradually introduced back into physical activity.
The idea is the brain has been kind of slammed around in there and it will heal, but it needs time, to heal, and it needs rest. And those are things that I think that are a little bit different from the way we've treated concussions in the past, as far as not expecting them to be academically as sharp. I think that's kind of a difference from the way that we've treated it in the past.
Michigan law also requires student athletes and their parents to sign a concussion awareness form. The form gives parents information about signs, symptoms, and recovery advice. Well, we have an update for you tonight from Sault Ste. Marie. Residents in the Upper Peninsula who were expecting to see a hike on their electric bills will not be seeing them as soon as they thought. It was decided in July that customers in the UP would have to cover all operating costs, and EPA required upgrades for the Presqu'Île power plant in Marquette. That would add $22 million in cost to customers, adding on an extra $30 to the average residential electric bill. Company officials and residents met in October to figure out how to fight the rate increase. The plant has 30 days to comply with the Federal Commission's request for more information about the payments. In the past 3 weeks, the Grand Traverse County Health Department has responded to 1,500 calls concerning a whooping cough outbreak. As of last Wednesday, there are 37 confirmed cases in the area. 12 are associated with the Grand Traverse Academy, while the rest are considered community cases. Meanwhile, the Northwest Michigan Health Department says possible cases are now under investigation in Antrim and Otsego counties. There are 2 confirmed cases in Antrim County and 1 in Otsego County. At this time, officials expect to see more cases pop up in those areas. Well, the warm temperatures we experienced this past weekend are not here to stay, and that means you might want to light up the fireplace again. But before you do, we have some tips on how to make sure your fireplace is safe to enjoy this winter. One Northern Michigan chimney sweep business says they see more than 25 chimneys with damage every year. To prevent this from happening in your home, they suggest to make sure it isn't leaking water and no debris is falling down. Also, before you light the fire, try to twist and light a piece of paper to make sure the draft is going upward. Experts say regular chimney maintenance is very important.
There are houses have burnt completely down to the ground because of creosote buildup, and if someone's had a fire maybe 5 or 6 years ago, or you bought a house that had a previous chimney fire and you didn't know about it, every time you burn it, it opens up the flue tiles, and those cracks that were there from a chimney fire open up and they're exposing more creosote issues to get behind it, and that's where the chimney fire happens. It happens because creosote gets behind the flue tiles.
Martin also says it's important to have a small fire extinguisher in your house, and several products can also be picked up at a local hardware store to clean out the creosote. Manastee's annual Old Christmas weekend begins this Thursday.
Yeah, it's the 26th year for the weekend, which of course includes the Sleigh Bell Parade. That's the big event on Saturday. The weekend is one of the busiest of the years for shops in downtown Manistee. Same is true for local hotels. At the Ramsdale Inn, the demand for rooms is so great, the hotel's general manager doesn't accept reservations in the usual sense.
And we do a little different thing because we only have 10 rooms. It's kind of a special event to get to be there. So we run a lottery for this particular weekend. That's how important it is. We have about at least 50 people on our waiting list for the 10 rooms that we have.
Wow, the weekend begins Thursday with several events, including the Manistee Choral Society's annual Victorian dessert concert at Faith Covenant Church. The Sleigh Bell Parade will begin Saturday evening at 5:30. Sounds of chainsaws filled the air in downtown Traverse City. It didn't all quite happen that quickly. Today, as crews installed the 42-foot tall Christmas tree, they put it right there in the middle of the road. The nearly 5,000-pound tree was donated by a woman who lives on Barlow Street. The tree will sit right there at the intersection of Front and Cass through the Christmas season. Santa will light the tree this Friday, along with caroling, live entertainment, and special store hours. That event goes from 5 until 10 p.m. on Friday. And it's always kind of that strange reminder that we live up here, so it's completely normal to have a tree in the middle of the street. I love it. A reminder, you can always get the latest look at news, sports, and weather anytime by logging onto our website, upnorthlive.com.
Coming up a bit later on 7 and 4 News at 5, it's a phone scam that's hitting all parts of the country. Hear how predators stole nearly $3,000 from one victim and how to make sure the same thing doesn't happen to you.
But first, it's now been a week since a grand jury in Missouri decided not to indict Officer Darren Wilson in Ferguson. Hear what President Obama says police officers should wear to help stop similar incidents from happening in the future. You're watching 7 and 4 News at 5. In the wake of Ferguson, President Obama is focused today on easing racial tension and the distrust of police in many minority communities.
He's calling for the use of body cameras by cops, but some staffers in Washington who would look into that kind of request had trouble getting to work because of Ferguson. Steve Handelsman has the story.
Now, studies have shown that police and citizens have much calmer interactions when they know they're on camera.
The request would cost about $250 million, but the president says cameras could protect police and citizens by making clearer what happens when police pull their guns.
All right, coming up next in health news. A lot of people look forward to the holidays, but they can also be a really stressful time. We're going to tell you what doctors say are some of the best ways to manage that stress and keep your season as merry as possible.
And 2 new reports out tonight about the potential dangers of some children's toys. Hear what parents can do to make sure their child doesn't get hurt playing with one of the toys Santa brings them for Christmas. You're watching 7 and 4 News at 5. In health news tonight, the buildup of holiday stress is already starting for a lot of us. There are dinners to plan, gifts to buy, and lots of activities to try and squeeze in between now and New Year's Day. Research shows about 60 to 80% of us feel stressed during the holiday season. The most common physical side effects are fatigue, irritability, and sadness. High stress can lead to unhealthy behaviors like overeating and drinking, having trouble sleeping, and depression. Doctors say there are 2 things that commonly cause stress this time of year.
First, the expectations you put on yourself. We always cause ourselves more stress than anybody else does. And secondly, it's the cultural pressure to get just the right gift for everyone.
Doctors say putting together a plan for the holidays can help. You can develop a shopping schedule, a list of gifts to buy, and a list of parties to attend. And if you do start to feel overwhelmed, getting away from the crowd for a little peace and quiet can go a long way. It's also the time of year when kids start to put together their Christmas lists, with toys topping most of them. But some toys are more likely than others to be associated with injuries, and some are even severe enough to send kids to the hospital. The number of kids getting hurt playing with toys has risen 40% since 1990. Emergency room records show a child is treated for a toy-related injury every 3 minutes. Younger kids are prone to choking on small toys, and as kids get older and more active, ride-on toys account for a large number of injuries, especially scooters.
When they were introduced in year 2000, there was a rapid increase in the number of injuries. In fact, I will say that I've never seen anything like it in my career.
Toy-related injuries are those associated with, but not necessarily caused by a toy. To reduce that risk for harm, helmets and other safety gear are very important. Supervising children during playtime is also key to preventing injuries. Time now for your lifestyles forecast. Let's send it over to Chief Meteorologist Mark Watkins.
All right, thanks, Mark. Well, as the temperatures drop around northern Michigan, we're not the only ones dealing with the extreme cold.
That's right. This time of year can be a dangerous time for pets to be outside. We'll tell you how you can help make sure they stay safe and warm during the winter. That's next. You're watching 7 and 4 News at 5.
All right, the colder weather looks like it's here to stay, but that can be dangerous for our furry friends to be outside.
That's right. That's why owners need to take extra precautions during the winter. Kirsten Glavin has some tips to keep pets safe and warm this season.
Now, the National Humane Society says pets who spend a lot of time outside also need more food and water because staying warm simply drains their energy.
And while they're outside, try to keep them away from salted driveways and sidewalks. The chemicals used to melt snow can irritate and crack the pads of their feet.
All right, coming up in our 5:30 half-hour temperatures, they're fallen, but so far the snow hasn't followed suit. Chief Meteorologist Mark Watkins will let us know if that's going to change later this week.
Plus, a scam alert to warn you about tonight to make sure you don't get cheated out of your holiday savings. You're watching 7 and 4 News at 5.